Hi everybody, it's Stephanie MoDavis. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to bring up a concept that maybe is new or different in regards to the battle amongst the COVID dilemma of people thinking that it's over-amplified versus the people who are taking this tremendously seriously and getting very angry and emotional over people who aren't taking it seriously. So we can just break this down into two subjective realities. The people who are very, very angry over the people who aren't taking it seriously, and the people who are really, really frustrated and angry over the people who seem to be taking it too seriously. So there's these kind of two schools of thought, this schism, and these two forces are really, truly at war. And I want to kind of break this down a little bit. So what I see playing out here is actually back to the age-old concept of the War of the Roses and gender energy. So please get out of your head right now the idea that when I say masculine energy that it's a man, and when I say feminine energy that it's a woman. We both embody both of these energies within the right and left hemisphere of the brain. I know we embody one sex, but as far as the energies of the masculine and feminine, the left side of your brain is the masculine side of the brain, which is the logical, analytical, structural, analysis-based, critical thinking, logic. I think I said that already. The feminine side is the creative, the emotional, the feeling, the sense perceptive, the bringing to life. These are the yin-yang principles that we see in the symbology of the yin-yang. Both of them are complementary, the masculine and feminine energy, but very often we're not taught these concepts, and we may be living our entire life based off of one aspect of energy and not realize it, just assuming that we're a woman, we're living as a woman, we're a man, we're living as a man. Energetically, that's not the case. And in fact, nowadays, these polarities are very, very inverted. What I mean by that is that there are many women who feel as though they're living this, trying to live an empowered state of mind, life, living, but they're actually coming from a more polarized masculine energy, and vice versa. There's a lot of men who have been, collectively felt suppressed now by a lot of the anger and hatred that's imbued onto men, especially if you're a white man. So there's a lot of suppression in energy and a lack of speaking up at times, and a lot of shutting down of the masculine energy. Again, this is not all, but this is really the aggregate, the majority, is there's an inversion. So what I'm seeing happen with this war of the COVID is really a war of the genders in their most extreme, unintegrated, polarized aspects, okay? So the people who are the freedom fighters, the people who think that COVID is blown out of proportion. Most people have admitted that it exists. I'm not talking about the extremists that think that COVID doesn't exist, reality doesn't exist, this is all an illusion. I'm not gonna get into that today. I'm gonna talk very three-dimensionally in what's happening here. So there are these freedom fighters who feel as though their rights are being suppressed, their freedoms are being taken away from them. We're moving towards some sort of Marxist, socialist, communistic, communist society. And there's a lot of this aggression and this desire to fight back and stand up for your principles and, don't lay down, fight, fight for the Constitution, fight for your rights. And then on the other aspect of that, is this, the people who are very, very adamant about extra care around COVID and everybody wear a mask, and they're frustrated if people aren't following the rules and regulations and wearing a mask, and they're disrespectful to others if they're not overprotecting themselves and others and staying locked in their house all the time. And what this is leading to is this very emotional anger, this not the righteous anger that we see from the other end of it, the freedom fighters, but the overly emotional energy of anger, which is really, honestly, the two polarities of the unintegrated masculine and feminine, okay? So what I will say is this. The energy of the people who are really, really frustrated about, everybody following the rules with COVID, and oh my God, you're the most horrible person if you don't protect your family and stay in your house. And, these people, I think they're called Karens. I think that's what people call them. But the people who are just solely focused on COVID, and somehow nothing else exists, right? No other condition exists, nothing else matters. It doesn't matter that there's high causes of death in other aspects of the world or illness, like everybody has to follow the COVID rules and you better get vaccinated and stay inside. And it's a very subjective, immediate reality where they're seeing just what's right in front of them, and there's a lack of authentic logic that's incorporated in to see the broader picture. It's just, this is what I feel is right now. Nothing else exists but what's right in front of me. And I can only react and feel emotions about what I feel right in front of me and what needs to be changed right now. So in that case, when there's anger, okay, when there's anger and it's expressed, where you're directing it towards other people without maybe even knowing their true full story, or just assuming that they're on the other side because they're saying something a little contrary to what you believe and how you say it, this level of assumption, this level of immediately assuming someone's a bad guy, immediately assuming that someone is a Trump supporter because they've said something not completely in line with how you think things should be going politically or in the realm of COVID, we're leaving there's so much room for improper assumption to be taking place without really getting to know what the other person or the other individual or whatever belief system movement is actually saying, because you're unable to see clearly. You're consumed by what's right in front of you, what you're seeing on the news, and you're just consumed and you're upset and you're overly emotional. When you're overly emotional and things aren't going your way, you start to get angry. You actually go into a realm of like a small child where it starts to seem like a temper tantrum because you don't have control and a deeper understanding of your emotional body, okay? So from the other aspect, the fighting, the freedom fighters to the extreme, where we're gonna destroy things and fight for our rights, and we need to follow the Constitution, and this kind of this warrior aspect of like we'll just annihilate everything in the process. That's a hyper-compensatory masculine energy of taking action and maybe not really taking time to sit back and perceive the broader perspective and consider other people's feelings and beliefs and seeing things, again, more holistically. It's just, this is my subjective belief, this is what I feel needs to happen, I don't care about anyone else, and if it doesn't happen this way, I'm gonna fight for it, right? That's where we're both at. We're literally both fighting for what we feel is right, and there's one subjective reality here, and there's another subjective reality over here. And in essence, if we had the emotional literacy, we would be able to have a Socratic debate. Okay, if you don't know what a Socratic conversation is, look it up. It's very basically and fundamentally where people from different or opposing viewpoints can come together and rationally talk things out to try to better understand each other, even if it's contrary to their belief. This is what we're desperately lacking. So I just want to encourage you guys to understand that true balanced feminine energy and true balanced masculine energy does not need to react in unconscious anger. They're not overly righteous in a way where it's inaccurate and presumptuous. If you can have the strongest emotion that you ever could feel and not react immaturely. So if you're finding yourself attacking people, I suggest that you stop and instead analyze your own feelings to the extent where you can have conscious conversations with people. And if you cannot and you've tried, just let it go. Don't keep pursuing it. Don't keep trying to beat a dead horse, as they say. But in this time in history where we're at, where there's all of this divide and conquer and separation, and there's right and wrong, and there's a ton of presumptions floating around. There's a ton of people blaming and starting arguments with people for actually no reason, just simply because they're miscommunicating. And there's a lot of unintegrated understanding of the self, of the emotional maturity that we gain as a human being as we evolve. there's still a lot of adult human beings walking around in bodies that may be 50, 60, 70 plus years old, but still have the emotional intelligence that of a 15, 14, 13, 12-year-old. And it comes out when you're feeling an emotion. It comes out when you're angry, when you're upset, when you're frustrated. You revert to a level in time where you felt most trauma in your life. You don't see it, or you're blind to it because it's just a part of who you are. And very often we'll confirm, well, that's how I am when I'm angry. Or, I have to speak up for this truth. I have to do this because that's who I am, or that's how my family is. Well, that's not the case. Very often, if we're adopting behaviors out of a level of lack of self-awareness and consciousness as to them, you need to go back in and you need to level up how you react to people and be willing to ask yourself, what solves problems? Does being righteous and angry and overly emotional and yelling at people and acting like a crazy person, does that solve problems? It doesn't solve problems. It just shows that you're crazy, that you got a little work to do. We all have work to do. Nobody is exempt. It doesn't matter what PhD degree, what level of education or experience that you have. Every single human being on this earth today needs to level up their understanding of communication and making sure that what's coming out of them is coming out of them in a productive way where you're not demonizing or attacking somebody else. If you want to hold your ground and embody the ability to feel, which is your emotional body, and your ability to be logical and analytical and critically think as you express your feelings, you don't react like that. You literally can talk in the same tone that I'm speaking as in right now to somebody that you're upset at if you have done your own work. Yes, it's difficult if you're trying to hold that space and the other one is just coming at you. But then you make a conscious choice whether you want to continue prolonged conversation with that person or you just don't be yourself. You're not so easily swayed. You don't pull yourself out of center. No matter what anybody says to you, you remain in a place of awareness that the other one is reacting because there's actually inner hidden frustrations and unintegrated trauma potentially, or misunderstood, malaligned energies within them that are causing them to react that way. And instead of you willfully choosing to participate or mirror their energy of unconsciousness, you're choosing to hold your place of agency and sovereignty and logic and feeling. And you're hearing them and you're loving them because a lot of anger is simply coming from pain. There's something deep within them that really, really is frustrated, and whatever the circumstance at hand, whatever the subjective reality is at that moment, whether it be COVID or something else that comes up down the line, it's still going to re-trigger these same unintegrated feelings and emotions. So how someone is reacting to COVID is an amplification of what already has existed within them and will continue to run through them, even past the incident of COVID. There'll be some other incident that reinstigates these same reactionary feelings because there's something at the root of you that needs to be addressed. So when you want to see a different outer reality, you must first focus on your own inner reality, the perception you have of yourself and your own work that you've done, and then how to relate to another person's perception, whether they have or have not done the work. So whether they're coming at you with a normal communication to seek to understand, or whether they're attacking you, you don't lose your agency. And this just saying this off the bat, I've had this happen to me, this can provoke an even stronger reaction in the person who's unconscious to their own emotional reactions. It can get them even more upset. And again, that's just something that happens, but once you understand, once you see, and you have the ability to see the entire picture and to know where someone else is coming from because you've already investigated those very same feelings within yourself, and you can just see an aspect of you that existed before the integration, you can just respond in love no matter what. And you can speak your truth and your opinion in a way that's graceful and strong, that's coming from a state of authentic feeling again, being anger is not, you're not yourself when you're angry. So it's a righteous feeling that has gone unrecognized, that's now coming out in an aggressive way. So it has information behind it. Those feelings and those emotions give you data. It's your emotional guidance system, but it doesn't mean that what's coming through is actually accurate to what you're really feeling, what's causing that reaction. It's very often a multi-layered process, okay? So again, your reaction to COVID, whether it be fighting it, fighting other people, fighting COVID, fighting whatever, these emotions have existed within you prior to COVID. COVID just, popped off the top, and now it's all spilling out. Everybody's inner workings is transparent for the whole world to see in their reactions to this virus and pandemic. So what I'm saying is that we all shouldn't have the same opinion and feel the same and think the same. That's not what I'm saying, and in fact, that's quite dangerous. Shutting people's voices off that have other opinions, it's dangerous. And it shows that we have a lack of ability and emotional awareness and intelligence to have true Socratic conversations coming from opposites. When in fact, if these two opposites can understand that their reaction is stemming from something and do a little bit of self-work, those two reactions can come together into something that's very, very integrated, powerful, loving, and game-changing. Thank you guys. Talk to you soon.